I've outlined a few, some options, but also some rationale. So the biggest rationale, I think, for us is that continuing to use a septic field is not a great long-term solution. We cross Metro Vancouver land with our easement. That easement expires in 2020, although we understand that Metro has suggested that they have no opposition to us
That's correct.
extending that easement into the future. However, the fact that everyone else in the cove is on the sewer, that we are a public building, that we are a municipal entity, that you will probably move municipal staff into the upstairs, that the Boulevard Cottage is also on the same system. There's a fair amount of usage in that spot that is still using the septic field. And then, of course, the fact that this field is on the fire hall land. So there are two fields. The sketch that I have is the highly technical sketch that was given to me by the fire chief. Anyways, so I'm not exactly sure which field that is indicated. There are two fields up there and they're right beside each other. So whether the one on the map is the one furthest west, or whether there is another one. I suspect that is, the other one is a little bit off of the fire hall location on the east side. Of course, having a septic field on your fire hall location limits what can happen there in terms of you can't drive across it and you can't park there and etc. So those are, that's really the rationale to connect to the sewer. Of course, the issue is that the sewer costs more as an initial upfront cost. Septic is cheaper, but in the long range, the long-term plan, it to us doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to upgrade a system that isn't perhaps the best and isn't the best most efficient and most effective long-term solution. But there we are. So I know that there will be other questions. So yes.
Allison and then Maureen.
I gotta look at two emails here. So how much contingency do you have in your Cove Commons budget?
We have a 6% contingency, which is about $53,000.
And how much of it is spent?
At this point, we think it will all be spent.
Of course.
So how much have you actually spent to date?
Well, we haven't spent any of it to date because we haven't expended all our budget to date. So of course, the contingency won't be spent until we get to the end and find there isn't enough money left. But we do anticipate that the expenditures we have so far have been a little over on a couple of things, and that we also have very limited budget for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and also no budget for landscaping, very, very small budget for making walkways into the building. So, of course, if we had contingency left, we would be more than happy to be using it to spend on landscaping and or furnishings.
And I'm assuming the building was built with the intent of connecting to the sewer, and therefore all the piping goes out by where the sheds are, rather than out on the corner where it would be nice and close to the Cenotaph.
Correct.
So there's an extra cost because
There is an extra cost to go around the building rather than
around the
going
building
straight out the other
longer
side.
piping.
I don't think it's, I won't speak to whether it's significant or not because I'm not a sewer engineer, so I don't know what those
Okay,
difference in price would be.
there was a couple of references in here that seem to imply that there was further development of the library lot being contemplated. The
Yeah.
library isn't contemplating anything.
No, it was more of a long-term, at some point if we wanted to expand parking or change the way the parking was configured, where septic tanks are would determine your ability to do whatever you might.
And am I
need or you
correct
might wanna do.
in assuming that the septic tanks are those manholes you can see by the storage shed?
Yes, between the library and the storage shed, close to the library now.
All right, now let me find my email to Bob. Okay, so when we were talking about building the fire hall, and now that we're actually going to get on to doing it, we did know that there were septic fields there, and the discussion that we had at the time from the fire hall committee was that we could connect the library line to the sewer connection line as part of building the fire hall. And that was a discussion that we had with Bob. Now, is that still a practical possibility?
Are you asking me or?
No, I'm looking at Bob.
It can be done.
Yeah, so, because we will be connecting the fire hall to the sewer, the stub is there, and the stub is actually on the side of, the north side of the lot, so I'm thinking that would be cheaper, because you just have to run a pipe into the existing, into where we're doing the sewer connection.
Excuse me, can I just ask for clarification? Are you suggesting hooking the Cove Commons out to the fire hall through the?
Leaving the line exactly the way it is, and the easement the way it is, and then just hooking in
To the fire hall
to the, when the fire hall,
connection.
through the fire hall connection.
I would be just a little concerned about timing, because the Cove Commons, I think, is planning to open in January. And I don't know when the fire hall will be open. Just
Well,
to
the
put it
plumb,
on.
the,
Anyways, I just-
the line could be put in and a stub put in. Good. Bob's grinning at me there, so. But I guess the question, conundrum with that one is, I don't know how old the pipe is or the state of the pipe that's in the ground that's connecting it. Stop holding your head, Bob.
It's laughing.
I would be good to get Bob's opinion on what he thinks of that idea.
My opinion is you're bubble gumming something together doing that.
Okay, so your recommendation is we should just go straight, it should just be connected
Do
directly.
one or the other.
Okay, now the $62,000 budget estimate, if there was $10,000 budgeted, then I think we should be using that 10,000 that was in the Cove Commons budget, and we should only be contributing 52. That's my last comment.
Okay.
Oh, somebody else.
Sorry, I think Maureen was next, and then I'm going to go to Melody and then you.
Thank you, Tina. As far as I'm concerned, you've made the case for putting in a sewer connection. It's just working out the details at this point. Allison asked a lot of the questions that I have, but I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more on how time sensitive this is. I'm assuming you need this decision now.
More or less, yeah. I'm afraid it is a bit of a time crunch. In order to get occupancy, of course, we have to have the health authority approve our septic usage. And at this point, the permit specifies that an upgrade must be made in order to achieve that occupancy permit. So the upgrade is either to the current septic as applied for, or it would be to revise that permit to say we were going to connect to the sewer instead. I don't know the ins and the outs of permitting and whether or not the health authority would allow some temporary stopgap if we knew that the sewer had been approved and was coming. I can't speak to that. I don't know whether that would be feasible to say. But at this point, our hope is to open in January, the Cove Commons, and we would require the health authority approval at that time.
When does the drywall start? Sorry.
The spray foam insulation is going in this week, and they're expecting to start drywall next week, end of next week.
And if I could just finish
Sure.
my questions. My other two questions are really for staff. Where would we get $52,000?
Yeah, okay.
Which budget can that come out of? And then the second question is for Bob, and presumably this would involve digging up Cardena and Bow and Trunk.
It will go, so there's a manhole that has a stub at the cenotaph. So you have to go from the cenotaph straight across the road, put a manhole behind the sidewalk, and then from there, go around the library.
Are there challenges? This is a dumb question, but get it out there. Are there challenges in doing that in November, December, January?
Because you're going underneath two storm lines, all the storm sewer, and the water main.
Okay, and I guess I have a third question then. If there's a requirement for an extension from Vancouver Coastal Health, making suitable arrangements in order to get the occupancy permit, who is the best person to make contact with Vancouver Coastal Health to start that conversation?
Bob.
Would be
Yeah.
Bob?
Bob's our man.
Because it sounds as though we're gonna need it, Bob, doesn't it?
You wouldn't get it done before the end of the year anyways, because you have to put out a tender, go for bidding and stuff like that, so it's not just start digging tomorrow.
And how long did it take to do Norman's? Because that would be a similar distance. That was a month, wasn't it?
Yeah, it'll be a month.
Okay, I'm gonna go to.
Okay, well, so a whole bunch of my questions have already been answered, but I've got a new one here. It sounds like it's quite an extensive job, it's a complicated job to get across the road. So, thumb in the wind, 62,000, do you think that's going to cover if you have to go, if it's a complex job to get across, if it's likely to go above 62,000?
That's what a tender's for, it's like our sewer line, that we thought we were gonna spend $70,000, we spent $1 million, so
Yeah.
until you put it out for tender, I don't know.
The other issue is we haven't heard back from North. The 62,000 was a very, very rough estimate. And we had delayed this by one council meeting already in hopes we'd have the information back to them about actual costs. And we still don't know.
But it sounds to me that perhaps it could be even
Absolutely.
more than, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
a feeling for,
absolutely.
not at, like, to pin this down,
Yeah.
but it could be a bit more.
I would guess it would be.
Okay, Gary and then Sue.
Yeah, just from a practical point of view, I don't know why we're surprised with this at this point in time. Part of the building permit process is that you have to prove your septic, and it should have gone to a professional to say this is what you're gonna require, which would have made it, the building and all the infrastructure would have been put in place at that time to perform whatever you had to, plus the fact you would have known that you were gonna have to raise $60,000 instead of 10 or 20. So I'm a little disappointed that all of a sudden it's coming back and getting dumped on council. However, that's de facto, and we have to go ahead and we have to pay this money, but I also think that that's what a contingency fund is for, and I think some of the money should come out of your contingency fund, because this is a contingency, there's no question, plus the $10,000 that you are already allotted. So that would be my feeling on it.
Gary, if I can just be fair to Tina as
Yeah.
well, she's been asking about sewer for a number of years.
Yeah, but it should have been part of the building permit process, and I don't know why it got
Can I-
subjugated.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
Just a moment. So we did consider the sewer connection when we began our fundraising and began our planning. And because of the increased cost over septic, we made a decision as a committee not to proceed with sewer,
Okay.
that it wasn't something we felt we could afford to fundraise for. We also felt that our donors were unlikely to be excited
About sewer.
about paying for a municipal building to connect to a municipal sewer in the long run. So we did make the decision to just go ahead with septic, and we certainly could revert to that. If that's what needs to happen, we would proceed with the plan that we had, which is to connect to the septic system, upgrade it, and understand that we will need to do a bit more fundraising to cover the additional cost of that.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you for that, too.
Gonna go to Savannah.
I can attest to the fact that septic and sewer have been discussed certainly at library board meetings for the past 3 years. And I've been looking for sketches early on, making sure I had the same ones and that we weren't missing any. This is the first time I've seen a sketch showing septic field on the proposed fire lot area. So, and it's the rough one that has the red marking on here, right? So, I think part of this is also that the fire hall plans have been evolving at the same time. And the certainty wasn't there before. And some of these septic fields, as we've heard, aren't really on the maps. I don't see 2 septic fields on either of these maps, for example. So there's at the library board level, we were working with, and the library foundation level, we were working with the information that we had. That also included this $10,000 estimate. So, but now we're hearing differently. I was hoping we'd have those final costs or hard estimate as well. One thing well, just that came up at a library board meeting was, I think, or maybe I suggested it, was what if we just went from the library straight up beside the sidewalk on the north side, so we didn't have to cross the road and cut up the road or across the storm sewer. But I'm seeing Bob just shaking his head, okay, it's just that it had some discussion, I didn't even know if it ever
You'd have
got
to
to.
go all the way to Seniors Road.
Yeah,
So then you'd cross
you'd still be
the
crossing road, thank you.
I'd like to just jump in ahead of Melanie, and then I'll come back to Melanie. I think that the substantive change in condition is the fact that we now have a fire hall going in. We had a septic field on spare land that we happen to have. Suddenly the spare land is the middle of the development that we're doing. So that's if we went ahead with all this stuff and used that as a septic field, it would still come back to bite us. Because it can't be, or it's unlikely that we're going to want that land to be septic field going forward into the future. I can't see us approving anything without an estimate. I mean, this might be $100 grand. I mean, who knows? So it may look like we have to use the septic field up there just because of the capital cost involved in going through the maze of piping on the road and possibly looking to the future when the line is expanded down Cardina or some other thing. Also, we have the issue of what budget pot this comes out of, whether it's in this year's budget or next budget, all that kind of stuff that we don't know about. So my inclination is to defer this until after we have the cost estimate. Yeah, a more substantive estimate. And if we're having a special, cow, and now we're adding to that the other item, let's
Special council meeting.
throw this into that and have a short council meeting at that time with this included as an item. Does that work for us?
Yeah, if I may, I speak in support of that because quite frankly, if I look at the recommendations, I'm sorry, there isn't just enough hard facts right now. We may have to come to a short-term solution. They're always undesirable, but if that's what's necessary in the short term, so be it. Because ultimately there has to be a proper long-term solution. We have to know firstly what that's exactly going to cost. So I'm speaking in favour of just what you suggested, and perhaps we could move on from there.
Sure.
Just one other question. The $22,000 estimate for the upgrade of the septic, how good is that? You had somebody independent has actually
Yeah,
flagged the septic field
Jay and
and inspected
Ho
it?
looked at the plan that was issued by ClearTech Consulting. So
Oh.
ClearTech Consulting has created a plan of exactly what tank, what pump, what, et cetera, and that's been costed by someone else at $22,500.
And that's, but tanks and pumps in the existing plants.
Correct.
But has somebody actually inspected the fields?
The fields were inspected at the beginning of this process about 2 years ago.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, and there was a recommendation sent to us, and I believe copied to you as well, to clear some of the trees that are in an area. So the D-box was cleaned out and some brush was removed, but there's a couple of larger trees in an area that were recommended to be removed.
So some of that
And they have
cost
not been
of
removed.
updating the septic,
No.
to the extent that it's on the fire hall lot, would happen as part of clearing the lot for the fire hall.
Presumably. I don't
And then
know
it might
exactly
act
the
as a
location.
stopgap until we would then hook. But I don't understand why you need new pumps and everything.
Okay, let's take a motion to defer
Okay,
here.
sorry, can I just add one more thing here, just timing wise? We're looking at having that special committee of the whole council meeting the week of November 6th, the week after next, due to scheduling. Bob, realistically, if we have approval to go ahead with something like this sometime that week, tendering process, getting somebody organized, could this work be done by the new year? With Christmas
Not if you
schedule?
put it out for tender, you'd have to waive the purchasing policy and give the contract to North, because they're the ones that are giving us the price. So either you put it out for tender and other companies bid on it, or you waive the purchasing policy and
Have
say
North do
we're-
it, who are doing the estimate.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to be realistic here, that this is something that is accomplishable by the end of the year, by the time the Cove Commons opens up. My fear is that it's not,
No.
so it's something to consider.
One more timing question. if somebody could have a conversation with North Vancouver Coastal Health, I mean, maybe the issue would be that the new washrooms are not open to the public.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And they
that-
become
that might be
staff
an
only
option to talk
washrooms
to
and no
North,
public
Vancouver
washrooms.
Coastal
And
Health.
if that would give us the extra time, then that might work.
Right, the washrooms would be open in the
Mhm.
library, people would have to go to the library to use the
Mhm.
washroom, if everybody used the washroom.
Well, no, we just close them all to the public. They're
Because I've
only
been
for
around
staff
long
only.
enough that I know this is too tight a timeframe.
Yeah,
For this kind of
yeah.
major work
Yeah.
by
By January, yeah.
But there's also the ultimate completion of the building scheduling, which may be the 1st of January is optimistic anyway,
Yes.
maybe. Maybe just a patch. So anyway, I'd like a motion to defer, and I think we should move on now, if we may. Okay, all in favor? Okay, it is deferred.
Thanks for your time. I'm gonna sit right here because I have 2 more minutes. The next item of late item agenda.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so just so you know, the library is, along with the Cove Commons, we are renovating the existing library in order to make it function and flow better with the Cove Commons. So we are doing a renovation that includes moving our desks, replacing the shelving, putting new carpet in, realigning the doorway, etc. We need to apply for a building permit. There is some electrical work that will need to be done and a little bit of plumbing work that needs to be done, a partition wall coming down, etc. So in order to apply for a building permit, as we are not the building owner, either you need to apply for it, or as a recommendation suggested, you authorize me to apply for that building permit.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt the recommendation as printed in our agenda?
I move that.
Okay, and the seconder? Okay, any discussion before I call the question? All in favor? Okay, that's passed unanimously.
Great, thank you very much.
I thought your contractor was gonna blow an eyeball out when I had to tell him that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he'll be pleased that help is pleased.
Thank you.
Roberto?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. There's a petition for 2 properties to join the Cove Bay Water System. So the recommendation is that Council vote on the Municipality Cove Bay Water System and Local Advisory Committee to establish bylaw 9/2000, amend the bylaw 451/2007 for first, second, and third readings to include these 2 properties into the Cove Bay so they can be hooked up to Cove Bay water. Just sort of an overview is they've already applied to connect. There's a water main that goes right by their property. So the $10,000 or, what is it? I always call it 10,000, 9,000.
9949.
That's right. That is to include them in the boundary. All other costs for connecting, putting their water meter in and that's all borne by the applicant. That is not included in the 9,999.
Okay.
There's been a few properties that have done this before, and so it's relatively easy for these 2 properties to join, because the water main runs right by the 8-inch water main.
Yeah. No, thanks, fabulous idea. Can I have a motion and a seconder, and then we can discuss? Moved and seconded. Adopting the recommendation as per the agenda. Discussion?
Well, the one question I had was that we had a clause that they must pay the $99.49 before we give it 4th reading. So it might just be useful, since it's not covered off in the staff report, to just make a note in the minutes.
I think they've already paid, haven't they, Bob?
They have already paid, but-
Yeah, but there's no
But
trail anywhere that
next
shows
time,
that.
it should be in the motion next.
Well, no, it shouldn't, they've paid it, so we either just put a little whereas in the front, as whereas they have paid the application. Or a note in the minutes that the application, that the,
But wouldn't that be more of an operational thing, that staff make sure fees like this are paid? and
well,
why
we
not
would
the
want that
council?
assurance before we got to 4th reading, that had
I can
happened.
give you that assurance right now.
So, I just want a written trail that assurance was there, that's all, and it's not in the staff report.
But
So So you could have at the beginning of the, whereas the applicants, the noted applicants.
Or we just have a
a-
one-liner in the minutes that say that the
Put a whereas in front of the
the staff
recommendation.
advised the application of the extension fee had been paid. That I'm happy with.
Okay.
One-liner in the
A
minutes.
note in the minutes saying that the fees have been paid.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to speak to a parade. Finally, we're putting new people on Cove Bay Water.
Yeah.
They're going to be making payments every year towards the operations. And this, with all those water lines running in front of people's houses and they're not hooked up to it, has always struck me as such an absurdity. So, all in favor of the motion? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
He's next.
I can't get up at twice.
Now, next up, we have Bob Robinson.
This is for the Bowen Island Seniors Housing Cooperative to connect to the sewer local service area. So the recommendation is, whereas council has received a petition requesting that the boundary of the Snug Cove Sewer System local service area be expanded to include Bowen Island Seniors Housing Cooperative, and whereas Bowen Island Seniors Housing has requested that Snug Cove Sewer local service area expansion contribution fee be waived as a latecomers, and the council defer consideration the Bowen Island Seniors Cooperative request until the Kerwood Lytle consulting engineers report back and receive, and that staff will report back to council with recommendations.
So moved.
So moved. Seconder? Okay. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor? And that's passed unanimously. Okay, we're just whipping through here today.
Don't say
Can I ask,
Just curse things.
I have a couple of questions. Can I ask Bob a couple of questions? It relates to the report, not to the motion we just passed so much as, in your report you say that your staff is in the purpose there. Staff is currently working with Keir Lytle. Sorry?
Kerwood Lytle, yep.
Yeah. And then the email that you sent on the weekend about the update on the
The lift station.
lift station.
Yes.
You said Keirwood Legal has submitted a proposal for it. And then I was looking at our sewer minutes, and is this this is the meeting of the Snug Cove Sewer, and this is, sorry, I have the draft minutes here. At the Snug Cove Sewer meeting that happened in August, we discussed capacity, right?
Yes.
And we moved and seconded that the Snug Cove Sewer Local Management Committee recommended council staff hire a consultant to recommend a fee structure to fund the future creation of additional capacity to the sewer, which would result in the additional hookups within the sewer boundaries such as secondary suites, other categories of wastewater such as the vodka distillery, and that the consultant provide a projected time frame of the capacity of our current system. Is that the same as the working with Keirwood Lytle?
Yes, there's 4 different tasks that Kerwood Lytle is actually gonna do. So we split it up into 2 tasks for people within the boundary, like the sewer capacity, and if somebody is in the boundary and wants to split a lot, or they make 5 houses on one lot, so how we go about that. And the other 2 is the latecomers, how they propose the latecomers just for the lift station, which people can connect to, which would include the seniors housing and the people along Miller or Seniors Road.
Right.
So there's 2 different things going on there.
But it's all part of the same Keirwood Lytle
Yes,
contract?
yes.
Okay, because in our sewer minutes, the motion that we passed said that we would recommend to council direct staff to hire a consultant. I don't know how this fits with our, I just don't remember it coming to council.
I think that it's kind of been snuck in here. It's a $16,000 item, right?
Yeah, it was, because there's different tasks, and we need
Because
to
it's
get on
split up?
this as soon as possible. It was within our purchasing policy, and staff went ahead and did it.
Okay,
because
so
we
that's-
haven't
that-
had council direction on it.
Right, thank you. I just
Okay.
wanted to figure out what was going on. Thank you very much.
Okay, so no correspondence. Under new business, I'm under new business. Okay, so went to the House Sound Forum, and there's gonna be like $600,000 worth of work done on a plan for Howe Sound. And our contribution to that work is the princely sum of $1,742 per year for 3 years. So I think it's very, 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 very good value. They did the plan for Barclay Sound, and it is seriously impressive. There's something like 100 layers or whatever that they overlay on a map that shows all the different things that are happening, and then you can see how they interact when the different layers are put on top of each other. It's a really, really good long-term project for Howe Sound. And so I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it, although I could have put it on the consent agenda. You all knew I'd do it someday. So,
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Seconder. All in favor? Okay, that's passed.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah.
So, annual report. We were thinking that this wouldn't come up until 11 o'clock, but as usual, we can see that we have a tremendous amount of interest from the public.
Well, they're all watching home with their coffee.
And so just for posterity, our annual report is out and done, and we have to accept it, and that is the book. And as much work as these things are, you have to admit that they are very cool. As you look back over a community, over decades or centuries, these things exist and they go on and on and on and on. And you can see where the people were at, what their thoughts were, how big the place was, where their priorities were for spending and all that sort of stuff. And I think 2016 was a really good year for Bowen. And I think the annual report reflects it. And the fact that it's our staff that runs Bowen Island, and all we really are is a policy-setting body representing the public interest. So as that body, I just want to acknowledge the annual report and how well it was done this year, and how well the community was run by our staff. And all of our wonderful volunteers, none of whom have come to stop doing it.
At the councils on the weekend, whatever day that was, Saturday, what Metro Vancouver does, if I've got that right, is they have, instead of putting out a printed version or a kind of hard document like that, they have a dashboard that they update as they go. And so anyway, basically it's a digital tool, not so much a document as a kind of ongoing record that they, like we sort of do with the Islands Plan, that we update it as we go. And so I just wanted to flag that with staff, because it occurs to me that it takes a lot of time and money to print the hard copy, maybe.
We only do a few hard copies.
Do you?
Yeah, just very few. It's on our website, but that definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah.
This is district or city?
It's Metro Vancouver
Oh, Metro
region,
Vancouver.
yeah, and you can find it at, oh gosh,
It's right on their homepage, I think, it
Yeah.
references to the
We'll take a
dashboard.
look for sure.
yeah, and yeah, sorry, I don't have the,
It's just, if you go to the homepage and look for performance monitoring,
yeah,
you'll find it. So it's in relation to the different, the 5 areas that are a priority for Metro, and then specific performance metrics.
so I thought it might be a way for us to bring the documented record, which I think is really important to have, especially like 20 years from now when we're going, what were we doing in that year? How did this, something come about? Where is that septic field? Whatever. And that won't be in there, sorry, but I mean, you know, the actual stats. But it's another kind of way, maybe we can do some tracking also in an easier way for staff, or that will be helpful for the public to see where are we on different things. Because it seems to me right now we're tracking Island Plan, as well as tracking all these kind of hard outputs. and something to look at.
I think that would be something that would augment, because our annual reporting legislation is very specific, and it's always for the previous year that we have to report out on. But definitely look at that with interest.
It might, if it makes the job easier too, I
Yeah,
just
for
want
sure.
to find the
Then-
digital
yeah.
tools and the technology,
Yeah.
especially if it already exists, that we can adapt it or something.
Totally.
Anyway, worth taking a look at.
So on that vein, because there is the requirement to have the annual report that goes to the ministry and stuff, and is available.
It doesn't go to the ministry.
Well, the financial statements go to the ministry. But Metro, there's still going to be, like, 2 years from now, if I wanted to look and see what 2016 results were, 2017, I'm going to be able to go back on Metro's website and find, because
I believe
this thing,
that's-
this dashboard sounded like it was interactive and live and updated frequently.
Yeah, but I
And
believe
so
you
there
can
still
get a
needs to be that
snapshot.
historical status document. So that was the question.
I
Yeah.
believe you can get a snapshot at different points in time. But this is a relatively new thing. It was
Yeah.
shown to the board probably 2 months ago.
Yeah, I don't think the whole thing is live yet. I think
No,
There's
they were
part of
showing
it
us.
that isn't live.
Yeah. But it was, yeah, the point I wrote down was live as opposed to annual snapshots, which I thought would be useful to all of us, so something to look at.
How many of these do we produce, the hard copies?
I think we do 15 of them, about 15.
You got one.
Ah, yeah.
And then the digital
Yes.
document.
Yeah, I did indeed. 15.
And if somebody requests a copy, we'll give them one. But for the
It's done locally, just locally printed, yeah. It's hardly a big circulation.
No, but there's a digital
It's on our
document.
Yeah.
website.
It's on our website. It's more a historical document.
It's, yeah. And I presume then if I came here to these offices, I could look back, there's one of these for all